What's happening, guys? Welcome to another episode. I've got an exciting one for you guys today. So if you guys remember from a while ago with the Mini, I tried to install a set of aftermarket seats inside the car. Now I'm not talking about the Mini Cooper S seats that I currently have in here that I swapped out for the JCW ones. What I'm referring to is the Sparco one-piece bucket that I had intended to install in this car. So we're at JRP today in Mississauga, and I'm going to take a look at all the seats that they have in their showroom and take a look at their inventory, because I want to make sure that I get a seat that I like, that will fit in the car, and I know it's going to be a perfect fit for me. Let's go check it out. So there aren't many places that have showrooms like this, at least in Ontario. As you can tell, they have a large selection of parts that you can take a look at in person prior to purchasing. They have countless different large items like seats, racing suits, steering wheels, helmets, coilovers, wheels, tires, exhaust systems, and also the smaller stuff like lug nuts, hub-centric rings, racing oil, wheel studs, and pretty much every other performance part out there. Given that they have plenty of seats that I can sit in to find out which one fits me best, well, that's exactly what I did. I wanted to find a seat that fit me like a glove, while allowing the belt holes to be in the correct location given my height and weight, and fit in my car. My old Sparco bucket was too wide to fit in my Mini Cooper. Someone like me that's 5'9" and 160 pounds will probably want a seat that's totally different than from someone who's 6 foot and 250 pounds, obviously. Now, you can get the seat measurements online from every manufacturer, but it doesn't do it justice until you physically sit in them. After looking over some of the street and race seats from Sparco, Recaro, and Kirky, my decision was made very easy. I placed an order for my parts, and they rang me up when everything was delivered. After waiting for the seats to arrive, a desperately needed haircut, and a change of clothes, we're now in the shop with my Mini, but I removed the passenger seat prior to coming up, so heading home would be easier since I'd only be bringing home one extra seat. As you can tell from the boxes, I pulled trigger on some Recaro buckets, in particular, the pull positions. Depending on the aftermarket seats that you buy, you may have to run Sparco bases and drill holes into them to have it so that they work. I placed an order for a driver and passenger seat setup, which consisted of 2 bucket seats, 2 seat bases, 2 sliders, and 2 side mounts, along with all the hardware that goes with it. With these racing seats, I'm also able to run better harnesses, like 4, 5, or even 6 points that are intended for seats like this. Those will drastically help with keeping yourself planted in the seat when you take your car to the track. After you remove the 4 Torx bolts securing the OEM seat to the body, we can get started with assembling the new seats and hardware. To prevent the fiberglass shell from getting scuffed up from the hardware, place the adhesive stickers on top of the threaded portions of the seats. There's going to be 4 of them per seat with 2 on each side. The side mounts, sliders, and seat base need to be fastened to the seat prior to installing the entire setup into the car. So the first thing to be installed is going to be the side mounts. Because the side mounts have multiple adjustment points, there's no right or wrong way to initially fix the side mounts to the seat. As long as you're consistent with both left and right sides, using either the upper or lower holes, you're fine. You can always adjust it afterwards. So remove the adhesive cover on the sticker, and then place the supplied spacer in between the seat shell and the side mounts. Then, with the included bolt and washer, thread them into the seats, but keep them somewhat loose for now. Repeat the same thing for the other mounting hole, and then tighten them up by hand. Next up is going to be mounting the sliders. They are optional, as you can bolt the side mounts directly to the seat base, but that might not work for most people, especially ones that are vertically handicapped. Installing it is pretty stupid proof, as the rails only go on one way, and there's only one place for the hardware to fasten to. Tighten it up, and then we can attach the seat base. Since Recaro doesn't make the seat bases, the vehicle-specific Sparco ones will have to be used alongside the Recaro parts. Given the holes in the Sparco seat don't align with the Recaro sliders, you can choose to drill into either one for it to all work. So using the factory holes on the seat bases, we had to mark a hole on the sliders so that we can make a bolt hole. You can see the location is found between 2 holes on the factory sliders, and this area right here will be perfect to make a hole. So using an automatic center punch, compress the spring to create a small divot into the metal, which will allow the drill bit to easily start cutting through the metal and not wander. I know that this is the procedure, but cutting through new car parts is kind of scary. Anyways, with the holes drilled out for both sliders and then cleaned up, it will allow the seat base to now be bolted up to it. It's not a bad idea to use some thread locker when fastening all these bolts together, considering I don't plan on taking it apart later. Even if I have to remove the seats for whatever reason, you can simply unbolt the seat base from the car and take it out. After tightening all 4 slider bolts, the slider bar clicks into place and allows the sliders to move relative to the seat base, which will allow you to move the seat forwards and backwards in the car. Since I'll be using my stock seat belts for now, I need to transfer over the buckle. A single Torx bolt holds it in place, but we're going to have to transfer it to the Sparco seat base using a different nut and bolt. It should look like this. Now, to give us more room to install the bolts that secure the base to the body of the car, we need to cut the excess bolt material that's protruding past the nut. You can use a regular handsaw or electric reciprocating saw to save you a little bit of time. Now, there's going to be 4 of them in total, so take your time and try not to scuff up the seat base when you're doing so. With the dust blown away and cleaned up, we're ready to mount it into the car. Due to the limited space between the seat base and its feet, I wasn't able to use the Torx seat mounting bolts as they were too long, so standard hex bolts with washers were needed. Using power tools to speed up the process wasn't a possibility either, but because taking the seats out isn't something that's done that often, it's not too big of a deal. You're going to have to use hand tools. With the seats now bolted up, anyone that's about the same relative size as me will be able to sit in my car and not move at all with me ripping through the back roads or the racetrack. On to the next one. The install procedure is basically identical. I'll be using the passenger side seat base with the same seat, same side mounts, same sliders, and same mounting hardware. You may have a light on your dash, as the passenger seat usually has an occupancy sensor in it where aftermarket seats don't. And the same thing goes with airbags. Now, there's ways around it, but those are usually vehicle specific. As for the belts, you can use the OEM ones. However, they aren't optimized for aftermarket fixed buckets like these, which is why I'm going to be upgrading to harnesses in the near future. I realized this before, but whenever you modify one part of your car, there's always going to be supporting mods. Just like the engine, if you build it up to make more power than stock, you'll have to upgrade the drivetrain, the suspension, the brakes, and so much more. But all in all, I think this is so worth it. Since my Mini is still a hatchback at the end of the day, it's still pretty practical, much more than any of my other cars, even though it's missing most of its interior and rear seats. So guys, after having these seats installed in the car for a little bit over a month now, I can say that these are probably one of the best modifications that I have done to this Mini. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, let me just close the sunroof to make it a little bit quieter for you guys. The reason why I'm saying that is because it doesn't matter if you're driving the car slowly or if you're driving it hard, you are always inside the driver's seat and passenger seat if you have someone with you. And it doesn't matter if you're driving hard or slow, you're always enjoying the comfort of these seats. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my back is like, not the greatest, let's say. I'm usually adjusting the lumbar support on the driver's side seat, and whenever I sit in the passenger seat that doesn't have it, my back usually hurts, especially if I'm in a car for more than half an hour. These seats don't necessarily have lumbar support, but they have adjustable cushions on the backside. And because of that, it allows you to make it so that you actually have a rather comfy seat. Now, I've been in these seats for over a month now, and I've done drives that have been over, like, let's say 2 hours, and I haven't had that back issue. I haven't had any kind of problem with these seats. And even when you're driving it hard, it just totally rewards you. It is fantastic. When I looked at the Sparcos, the Recaros, and the Kirkis, no seat compared to these. These are a very good combination of comfortable yet rather firm. So when I take this thing to the track, it's going to reward me, it's going to hug me, and I'm not going to be going anywhere. Now, one thing that I do want to upgrade is I want to change this belt out for aftermarket harnesses. So when you're driving your car, especially if you're driving it hard, aftermarket harnesses are just that extra cherry on top to secure you to the seat. So because these seats are compatible with the extra holes up top, the one in the seat cushion, and the 2 on the sides, well, you can run an aftermarket seat with harnesses and it's perfect. It's a match made in heaven. So these seats are made for harnesses. Obviously, you can get by with using the regular OEM belts, but it's not exactly ideal. But my God, do I love these things. Yep, they work. Now, something that's actually pretty sweet too is that you can adjust these seats because I've got the sliders. So if you're a really short dude like me, you can be right up here, right up to the wheel, or if you're a big guy, you can actually push the seat back, and as long as it doesn't touch the cage, you're good. Like, I've got to stretch out to this, and I can barely touch the pedals at this point, so it doesn't matter if you're a big guy or a small guy. If you get the sliders, you can get them to work. But guys, this is pretty much it. The really nice thing about getting these seats is that because I went to JRP, I was able to sit inside Sparcos, Kirkis, and Recaros, and I was able to find out which one was best for me. My initial plan wasn't to get these Recaro pole positions. I was actually planning on getting the Recaro RSGs They seem to be a slightly cheaper seat. It seemed to be a different shape, but because of my build, I was actually too low for the ports up here for the shoulder belts. With that being said, with the seats at the proper position for me, with my OEM belt through the shoulder belt, you can see that this is the right size for me, and it's great. I got no complaints with them so far. So after getting these buckets, next up is gonna be getting the harnesses. The harnesses, I'm not exactly sure which one I'm gonna get, but I'm probably gonna go back to JRP to go check out what they have. If you guys have any further questions regarding the video, comment section's down there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.